Coaches across the country used the Coachpad this past season to be more efficient with their scout card prep on the weekends as well as when out on the practice field working with their scout teams. Whether you're a coach using a computer program to create cards or drawing them by hand, the Coachpad is for you. Never printing paper or stuffing a binder, clearly seeing scout cards outdoors in the bright sun, and using the Coachpad on game days, syncing diagrams from the press box to the sideline were some of the features coaches enjoyed this season. This offseason, get your Coachpad at thecoachpad.com to get your program ready for next season. Thecoachpad.com.
Welcome to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. We have a very fantastic guest today who I've been talking to for about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes before we get started, and who's got connected to through a friend. He is the running back / quarterbacks or just the backs coach at Liberty Hill High School there in Texas, a state powerhouse. Coach Paul Kilby. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Nick. Doing great. Glad to be here.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, especially on such short notice and everything and working through it. Before we get started, how did you end up as the running backs coach at Liberty Hill? I mean, you've been a head coach, you've been an assistant at a variety of places. How do you end up as the backs coach there at Liberty?
How far back do you want to go? No, I'm just kidding. First of all, I was visiting with you earlier. The first thing about me is that I am a redeemed sinner. I'm saved by the blood of Jesus Christ, and that's the most important thing I feel like about me is that I am saved by God's grace. Amen. But I'm from Canada originally, and I moved to Texas to coach high school football in 1998. And I jumped right into the slot team. I used to defend, and I coached college football up in Canada for 4 years. And the best team in our conference ran the old Delaware wing tee. And they sure don't anymore, but way back in the 80s and 90s. And when I got down here, I got working for a guy, Billy Butler. I was with him for 7 years at Quinlan Ford. He had worked for Bruce Bush, who's the godfather, of the slot tee in Texas, and learned it from him. He was super patient, full of knowledge, and there's no dumb question with Billy. He was awesome, Coach Butler. And I got my first big break, became the offensive coordinator at San Marcos when Coach Bush retired at San Marcos, one of his retirements. And the defense coordinator took over and wanted to continue on with the slot tee. And I was brought in, and I was there 4 years or so as an offensive coordinator, and we had great success there. And then I got my first head coaching job. I was at Mathis down in Corpus Christi, and then I was at Lockhart, barbecue capital of the world, and then I was the head football coach after that at Sweeney. And just for some personal reasons, I stepped down from head coaching, spent a lot more time with my daughter, and ever since then I've been in a couple places, but I ended up at Liberty Hill. Been there 5 years, and it's been fantastic. Great kids there, great success. The kids know how to win. They turn it on to another level when we hit the playoffs, especially as evidence this last year, no matter what kind of season we've been having. But that was the path that brought me along. I've been in slot D pretty much the whole way. And whether as offensive coordinator, head coach, or now a positional coach, it's just been an awesome ride.
Well, fantastic, Coach. And now with that, have you coached every position within the slot tee, as a position coach, or have you had a primary focus in one area or another for the most part during it?
Absolutely everything. As a head coach, I coached the offensive line. Like I said, first big time coordinator job was coordinator and title at Quinlan Ford, but at San Marcos running the show, I coached the backs there, coached the quarterbacks and backs, but I was heavily involved with the offense. We had a great O-line coach there, and I worked with him real closely. And then when I became a head coach, just because I was on a smaller staff and you kind of lean on one or two guys and their comfort level's more in the back. So I did the offensive line, which was really my first love. I probably drive our back coaches crazy at Liberty Hill because I'm always sticking my nose in there. And it's not that they don't do a phenomenal job. I just miss it so much. So I think to be successful in any offense, but especially the slot T, you got to know every single position. You got to be out front of everything. Have those answers for kids fast. That builds great confidence in them. The staff knows what they're talking about. And I've coached every spot in it.
Now, I mean, when you first, I want to think how to word this. Like, how, wh- obviously, Coach Bush is kind of I'll use the word Godfather, great grandfather, Godfather, however we want to word it, father.
I mistakenly said grandfather. He probably won't like that. Godfather.
Godfather. He is the name. Let's just be honest, the name that is synonymous with this offense. Like
Mhm.
his coaching tree has vastly spread to point where his son is now the head coach at a very up and coming university. Um, when you learned it, I mean, one, who did you learn it from? And then kind of what was that process for you as somebody coming with very limited experience with it, learning the offense?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've got who I learned it from, and then probably my greatest influence. Who I learned it from was Billy Butler, the first guy, like I was saying, at Quinlan Ford. Worked with him for 7 years, and he worked for Coach Bush, so it's kind of directly in that family. Um, when I just before I got to San Marcos, I met Jeff Walker in early 2000s, and Jeff was our head coach here at Liberty Hill when I came to work here originally, and he uh, succumbed to an 8-year battle with cancer in 2021. And we lost a wonderful man, a wonderful coach that year. But Jeff had taken the offense to a whole nother level. I mean, the stats he was running up as the offensive coordinator at Liberty Hill, and then the head coach at Rogers, Texas. They were like video game numbers. It was crazy, scoring 80 points regularly and 60, 70, and what people think is this 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense, which is anything but. Um, so I became real good friends with Jeff over the years, and I always, when I got into head coaching, I was like, well, if I do decide to get out, I want to work for Jeff Walker, with Jeff Walker, and I got to do that for 2 years before he passed. And he just we he so I would say he's the greatest influence I had, and we just run it uniquely, I think, at Liberty Hill. And we, since his passing, have tried to stay. John Huller, offensive coordinator, and Coach Hawkins, and our guys in our offensive staff, we've tried to stay just as absolutely true to the things that Jeff did so well and that we all believe in. And we work hard to certain things that have no leeway in breaking down on those things.
Okay. I just kind of, it's always interesting to see who learns from whom and how they get there. Cause like, I mean, I think every area has an influential coach and you can kind of see how things trickle down and who
Yes.
that person learned from. Like, it's very interesting for me, a concept. Um, like I'll ask you this is one, like, why do you think, I mean, obviously Liberty Hill is like the benchmark currently of how to run the slot T. I mean, you're in the state semifinals or quarterfinals every year. I mean, even when you have a regular season that does not necessarily meet your standards, you still end up somehow going on a extremely long playoff run and uh, again ending almost the way you want. Why, I mean, for the schools that run it, like, why do you think they run it? And in part, why do you think they may or may not be successful when they do run it?
Well, I'm not quite sure where to start with that question. I will say I know a lot of guys who get jobs in the slot T. They get downtrodden programs. You don't see many guys. You get jobs oftentimes where they haven't won in a long time, and they're like, well, we know the athletes to run the spread like these guys, compete. So let's try this. That's Liberty Hill. We were talking before we got on here. 24 years ago, before Coach Vance showed up, the first head coach there that got it all going with Jeff Walker as his offensive coordinator. Originally, it was Les Goad for a year, but they were a whooping boy, Liberty Hill. Like they were everybody's homecoming draw. And here we are. It's almost half the years we've been there. We've been in the state semifinals. Let's say the slot T has been in town the last 24 years. Success is unbelievable. But often, what I think what's more remarkable about it is that, like I said, Liberty Hill was not their only tradition was losing before the slot T rolled into town. And a lot of guys who get jobs get programs like that. It'd be really interesting to see sometime if somebody decide to run it at DeSoto or Duncan, like, one of these schools with just D1 players everywhere, because it kind of has that tab. If you don't have any athletes run the slot T, our kids would be greatly offended by that, obviously. But I think they're saying, we've got a great combination of good, hardworking country kids that buy into that system, and that is key. It's got to be a selfless offense. You cannot have prima donnas. We preach team all the time. I know everyone's going to say that, but literally, we take kids coming up through. They want to be a fullback, and they end up being a guard. They end up being a guard. That's the way it is. And someone graduate and they say, Coach, it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me, being a guard. They're so proud to graduate a Liberty Hill guard. And football, they're fullback, those are fancy guys type of thing. So they have that pride, and to continually find kids like that is really impressive. So I don't know. I rambled all over the place. I don't even know if I answered your question.
You did. I mean, I'll say this because we kind of talked a little bit in a way about this before we started to kind of build off that question is, I mean, you obviously probably see film of other schools that run it, whether you play them or not. That's a whole different concept. I know mostly from my knowledge, it's mostly the smaller 1A to 4A that you typically see more of the slot T. Once you get in the kind of 5 and 6, it gets a lot more scarce, obviously outside of yourselves. And I also kind of know part of the answer to this question is, well, they took over a bad program. That's per reason why they didn't have success. But for those lower level schools that end up having success versus not having success, what do you like? Is there like an observation you kind of like, well, this isn't being run a certain way correctly? They're deviating too much from the offense, or is it just they don't have the mentality yet, or weren't given enough time?
Yeah. Okay. I think I know, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know that, yeah, if you're gonna you got to be all in. We can tell when we have people come visit us all the time, and when guys are looking for a niche or a part of the offense, well, we like this series and we like to run that, but we're still going to run this. We're still going to run the I. We're still going to run it right away. We kind of we'll certainly work with them and help them and that kind of thing, but they typically have scrapped it within mid-season or after season or something like that. If you're going to be in, you got to be all in. And when I learned it, that's what I wanted to learn it exactly as Bruce Bush ran it through Billy Butler. And then I met Jeff Walker, we exchanging ideas. Like when guys come to visit us and want to learn exactly how we run it, man, we'll give them everything they want. Everything we've got, we will help them. And we got guys call us all mid-season Sundays. How do you block this? How do you, what's the best plays to run against this front? And all these kind of questions. And I think we're most apt to help those guys because we do have kind of a bias towards guys who want to truly learn the offense and stay true to it. And I do think we run it, uniquely even within Texas with a lot of people. We'll watch smaller schools and they've got O-linemen bigger than we have. We were talking before we got on here. I've been there. This will be my 6th year coming up, and we have not had a guard over 180 pounds, quick or strong guard. Our first year in 5A, moving up from 4A to 5A, we went to the state semifinal, lost a tough one, 62-61 in overtime, going for 2. We fumbled the ball on an open buck sweep. It was a poor handoff, and our guards were 170 pounds, maybe, our strong guard, and 155, 160 in 5A football. And now they're running 4.75, 4.8s, and they couldn't blow anybody off the ball one-on-one, But with angles and running and flying, exploding off the ball, sprinting up to the ball from the huddle, tapping our hands down and just going. Those guards, they're like little spider monkeys. After 4 quarters, they keep coming at you with angles and on you and biting ankles and cutting you. And we can wear people out over with the pace we go. And when we watch sometimes other people running it, and they're they've got 230-pound guards that run 5.2 and that kind of thing, and they're more power oriented, and that's fine. It's just but you can't have both. That 230-pound guard running 5.2, he's also going to wear out by the 4th quarter. The off season we run is built around our kids. 70 minutes in the weight room, just busting their tail, going the whole time. I go, you go. No resting in the weight room, no reading cards. We are just going the whole way. We are building into them a mental toughness and a physical endurance to just over 4 quarters to wear people out. Our kids really believe they're going to win every game in the fourth quarter. I'm not saying we always do, but that's the mentality they have, that they will win in the fourth quarter. And that's a testament to our kids for sure.
And how much, like, I mean, to build off that, like, and that's a good point, like, how much of your off season really in your practice helps build that? Because obviously, like, as you kind of mentioned there, like, you can't have somebody that's out of shape or in a that cardio is not where it needs to be. I mean, if for anybody that's listening that's never watched slot T, I mean, you rival Chip Kelly level speeds in terms of getting lined up and snapping the ball. Like, I don't, again, YouTube videos don't do it justice, so I don't really see how much time in between plays you take. But obviously, from the time you get the call in the huddle to the time the ball snapped is a matter of seconds, because the center and the I'm gonna feel like an idiot for forgetting this. The what's the name of the other tight end position?
Wingman.
Thank you, swingman. Like, I feel bad that I forgot that.
No worries.
Lead for the football, and then all of a sudden everybody else sprints, and then by the time the quarterback gets there, everybody else is set, snap, and either somebody's going in motion at that point or you're snapping the ball. And yeah.
We get coaches. We can just sit there watching the opposition head coach before the game, talking to the officials, and you can see by their gestures or walk by and hear them, they are already complaining. They're never set. They're not set. And there's times we're not. But we're not going to slow down for 1 5-yard penalty in a game. That's never going to deter us from changing our whole game plan, which is just to win the snap count, come 1,000 miles an hour out of the huddle, tap our hands down. We're on quick 1 or 2. It's either red on quick, we're going first down as fast as we can, or it's ready hut, or it's ready hut. I mean, as fast as we can say it. Our kids are, and one of the ways we do that is we don't put it on the quarterback. A lot of people say, how do you go so fast? We say, well, we yell a lot, we holler at kids to get going. We build it in the off season. And we talked about we have a kind of a legendary off season, I would say, and we don't put it on the quarterback to make sure people are set in practice. We tell them to run up there and snap the ball. And if that strong end, like the Wyeth guy or the swing man or whoever, a halfback, doesn't have his hands down, we're going to get on him. Because once the quarterback starts having to look left, look right, look behind him, that halfback's going to wait. He's going to look to make sure I'm down. Human nature just says, I'm tired, go a little slower, deep breath, elbows on knees, then get down. We don't do it. So it's every kid knows I don't want to drop the ball. The quarterback's not waiting on me. I got to get my hands down and we're going to go. And, that mentality, I think, is critical. And we just tell our quarterbacks, we'd rather have a whole bunch of offsides here in practice and build up to get to the point we want to be, and you start looking around, because it will just snowball downhill.
Okay. I was just curious on how that process worked. I mean, I don't know if you know. Do you know when or why Coach Bush and Wise continued that? I mean, one of the focal points of the offense is to go so fast. Like, obviously in college, with the spread offense, it was to try to get numbers in space, and you have to play vanilla base coverages. But obviously, I don't think coverage is the priority when people face you. I'm just going to say that out loud. I mean, yes, you can throw the ball when you absolutely need to, but there is the old joke with the 10 commandments of the slot T is you're going to run 18 passes a game and 16 of them are in pregame. Okay,
absolutely.
That is the old joke with the 10 commandments of the slot T. Like,
yep.
Is it really truly to just be faster, be in better shape, to be more physical, and to kind of hit them now and prevent them from being able to align on what you're doing. What do you think? And I mean, the theory or thought process behind, hey, we're moving 100 miles an hour, and you're not going to stop us.
That was a Jeff Walker thing. Coach Bush and it had been run one way for a long time, and we actually used to in the slot tee. Everyone we would make checks. We go up there and make calls and look, and if they were lined up as fours, we're going to run sweep and 3-2-8, and if they're lined up as five, we're going to hit them with the trap, and we make a call and go, and it wasn't always that fast, and there was more verbiage in the snap count than we've got to. And it was actually my first year at Liberty Hill, and Jeff threw out an idea that could we get rid of all these colors and numbers that we say, and we made a decision that we wanted to go as fast as we possibly could, and our kids didn't adapt well originally. We were kind of down that year a little bit to start, and it was one of those years we had a real rough start and ended up getting to the state quarterfinal, ended up turning it on in our last year in 4A, but we were jumping a lot early because our kids were not used to this pace, and everything. Jeff, his mind was just geared to how can it be faster from the huddle to the snap of the ball to if you're running 8-hole or 3-4-9 buck sweep to getting that back over the line of scrimmage and the guards downhill as fast as we can. We always talk about it being just a purple wave coming off the ball. If we can get into our mentality, if we can get into guys' pads, we don't have to be the most devastating base blocker. But if we're winning the snap count, just stabbing them with our hands and our eyes, running our feet, we can have that 6 foot, 180-pound strong end, and he can be over 4 quarters whooping a D1 defensive end just because we're geared to run 80 plays a game. Our kids' mentality is that way. Our offseason is built that way. Our practice, we run 180 to 200 plays in practice. We don't hit in practice. That shocks a lot of people that come and visit. They think they're going to get there and see a knockdown, drag it out, scrimmage, toughness, slot tee. We try to keep them as fresh as we possibly can, and we go that fast the whole practice. When we get to the team portion after trap sweep, we have 2 huddles, and they are breaking the huddle from the hash and sprinting to the ball and snapping the ball. And we don't stop and coach a mistake and discuss it and talk to them. We holler at them as they're running back if they step with the wrong foot or they didn't have the right rule block type of thing, and we just coach on the fly. We're filming it. Send kids notes afterwards to correct it the next morning, the next day. We're not going to slow that down. So our pace is built in so many ways. The off season, the practicing, all summer we go in the morning, and the Liberty Hill kids don't know any other way. Just you get out on that field, you're trying to run 80 plays, you're trying to run as many plays we can possibly run in a game, and we're trying to get to that ball and go. And that mentality just. And our job is to never let that slip. You never want to get complacent and just, our kids are great. They're going to do it. We're constantly on them to try to take it to another level and go faster and faster and faster. So the evolution there, like I said, just to recap, it wasn't always that way. That was a Jeff Walker thing. We built on it. He built on it for years. His mind always worked that way. I got their work from a couple of years, Coach Hall stuff, and we were working. How do we make that? How can we constantly go faster? Everything from getting the play in, to getting up to the line of scrimmage, snapping that ball, to getting the ball past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Interesting. Now with that, I'm just curious, with how fast you're going and just nonstop, do you still heavily condition during practices, or
No conditioning at all?
You just have eliminated conditioning?
If they can survive our practice, they are in marathon shape. They're running from the word go till that thing's over. For us to line them up on the line and run 40s after would be completely counterproductive. They have run 1,000 40s throughout our practice. They're going the whole time. That was
gonna be my assumption. I just wanted to make sure, because again, that's kind of us this year in practice as well. Is it was move, and we just kind of eliminated the conditioning aspect because. If you're not shaped by time, we're done with our practice. We're going, we're moving. Okay. So that was kind of my curiosity there.
And I'll brag on those Liberty Hill kids again. If you went into a down program right now, you are trying to run this. they're not going to be able to go at that pace. It's going to take a while to get that buy-in for sure. So, that's, and if you're at a program like that and you're trying to do all this stuff and they're like a mule kicking back at you, you might have to run them 40s, or you know what I mean. You might have to do some conditioning because you're not getting it. You're having to teach more and things like that. So, that goes back to bragging on the kids at Liberty Hill a little bit.
Now, I mean, one of the last questions I want to ask you, for at least for the podcast portion, is you've mentioned people coming down to talk to you. I'll just be blunt. There's not a lot of resources, and that part of that is by design. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That you get, as we talked on the phone, you get the joke that you're the mafia all the time as the people that are in the slot T, because it's like this secret society of people who are protective over what they do. And for good reason. I mean, we also talked, there are people who have tried to run it and then sell stuff, and it's not really the actual stuff. I'm not going to say who or point fingers, but it is what it is. But your suggestions on, I want to learn it because I'm a historian and I love history and I love football, and I don't like seeing things die or lose or go away over time. I enjoy watching old Wishbone film and documentaries. I watched the Ken Spar on documentary about his life on Amazon earlier this offseason, and I was watching split back stuff. And then obviously you go down that category, like one of the godfathers of the split back veer and what he did at Carson Newman. Like, again, I'm diverging on a whole different path here at this point. But obviously reaching out to your staff, but what are the best ways for people who truly want to learn the offense, not want to be gimmicky with it or just try to add a piece, but generally, is it to see you? Is there any other realistic resources? I know occasionally a Liberty Hill coach will speak on at least offensive line play or tempo in practice at the Dallas Fort Worth Glacier. What are the best ways to go about that process of truly learning the offense?
Yeah, there's not a lot out there. You're right. The slot team mafia does stay fairly tight-lipped, but I'll tell you this, Nick, right away. We have never ever been too busy for anybody that's reached out to us and asked one to come visit. We love to talk about the offense all day long. So it's kind of a misnomer, like a misconception that we're not going to share the things we do. We'll share with anybody, but we're not going to put out a video or to sell it to where that's we're trying to make money off of it. We respect the offense too much to try to do that. We'll help anybody at all we can, but you are correct. There's not a lot of resources out there. 100%. We have people come in and visit a lot, and the springs are usually pretty booked up with people coming in, and we'll do anything we can to help them. We really will. So that the mafia thing is kind of and I think there are some coaches like that don't want to share anything. I know at Liberty Hill, and when I was at other places before coming here, and people wanted to come visit, I always feel like there's so much to it. There's so much to running it properly. It's very tough to come in, learn it, and go run it yourself without actually coaching it as an assistant or being exposed to it, being around it in that sense. There are a few that done it very well, but we just I don't know how to put this. I don't want to sound arrogant in any way. We feel like we can stay one step ahead of people. You know what I mean? If we're giving up things that we can, if there's no fear that they're going to run and tell some defensive coordinator things like that. We feel like we've got enough answers to continue to have some success at Liberty Hill for sure, and give away all we've got to help coaches grow for sure.
Now, I'm gonna ask this question because you kind of mentioned it earlier, and it also reminded me of a Coach Duty story as well. I mean, you've mentioned people call you in season and on the weekends in season, and Coach Duty also kind of talked about when he worked for Bruce. You kind of have to wait on Saturdays and Sundays for Bruce to get off the phone with other coaches and helping them to deal with his game plan. But again, Bruce knew what he was running because he's running the offense forever at that point. Like, do you have, I mean, how common truly is it, or do you have any good stories like that of just kind of waiting or waiting on coaches calling you or anything like that? Because like I thought that Bruce story was kind of funny, but kind of apropos to just, I mean, it goes back to those type of coaches who are just good people that will help people. Like Emery Ballard talked about it in his book as well with the wishbone when he worked for I'm losing at Texas. His head coach would answer the phone call to everybody about the wishbone and help other coaches. Um, do you think that's just the nature of that kind of offense? Is that the nature of that? I mean, I could just say bluntly that the Texas people, because they're just good people. Do you just think it's the right thing to do? Do you, and how often it does that happen to you guys truly?
Yeah, I think at Liberty Hill, in the situation right now, we probably have the least of that in the sense that John Hall's our offensive coordinator. He was a head coach. Scott Hawkins coaches our guard centers. He was a head coach. We have a lot of experience there, and like 30-year guys. We're all getting old in the tooth, but long in the tooth. But we're not. I remember early in my career, I would call Jeff on a Sunday. I would call Les Goad on a Sunday. I would say, "Hey, how are you? How are you blocking this? We're looking at this, and and they're like, I tried that 5 years ago, and that wasn't any good, and give you exact references and things. And I know when I was a head coach, I had guys often call and ask me how you block things, and I think SWAT T guys really do try to help each other out, and even if they're not, a Texas SWAT T guy, we've had guys visit from Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, all over the place. I feel like we've always got enough time for those. I think the room does have to suffer a little bit. The rest of the staff sometimes to wait on the coordinator, the head coach. It's a little different. Liberty Hill, our head coach Kent Walker is our defensive coordinator. Totally believes in the slot T 100%. But he's dealing with some more of the head coaching things and all that, and he refers calls to us. But we don't get as many there, and we're certainly not. I don't think calling anyone, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way at all. Just we have so much experience on our staff. We're going to cuss and discuss and hash it out with ourselves, and we're gonna come to a decision on how we want to block something. Sometimes it can take 35 minutes. We're still on 234, 236 on the first play on the playlist there. But what you bring up is I think slot T guys are real good for trying to share with each other and help out and those type of deals. But it can make for some long Saturdays and Sundays especially. After everyone's got a good night's sleep, watch some film Saturday, you come back and everybody's got their ideas and you start to throw them out. And we throw out some ideas and we keep some. And half the time we end up going back, or 90% of the time we end up saying, rules, let's do what we do.
Oh yeah,
do what we do.
That's the name of a good offense right there. What we do, what's our rules, and is there anything that causes us to break our rules? If not, then let's just go. The
Right.
last thing I want to do, because we talked a little bit about it on the phone, and not many people I think are aware. But you have your own YouTube channel. You mentioned earlier that your religious faith and kind of where you're at. Do you want to kind of talk about real quick, kind of what your YouTube channel is about? I'll put the link to it in obviously our description, but like I said, I want to give you an opportunity because as we talked and I subscribed earlier today, just to kind of, I'm gonna take a look at it later myself.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of talk about what that is and kind of what you do on your personal channel?
Sure. It sounds fun. I've only had it for a few weeks and I'd like to build on it. But I love to discuss the Bible. I was just at a King James Bible Museum in Phoenix for the last 4 days at the end of spring break. And I do some street preaching and I want to get into that more as when I go into retirement after my football life, move in there. And yeah, it's just there's nothing. I don't want a big likes or anything like that. Some of it is just to help myself grow in the faith. And if I teach something on the Bible, it's just really for a few close friends and things like that. I'm certainly not want to be some YouTube personality by any means, but I'm just, you mentioned religion, and I know what you mean, but I would say I'm the opposite, or I believe in the opposite of religion. Religion's what man brings to it, and man's always going to screw it up. saved by the blood of Christ on his death, burial, and resurrection. I'm saved alone, and nothing good I could ever do. There's none righteous, no, not one. So, yeah, I've got a lot of friends up in West Virginia and South Carolina, and we do some street preaching together in different places. We were at Bikers Week in Daytona a few weeks ago, and actually had a knife pulled and held up to my throat during that time. And it's interesting because we're all saved by grace, and we understand it's 100% what Christ did for us. And I think a lot of people think street preachers are turn from your sin or you'll burn in hell. You know, there's so much guilt street from people who preach on the street, and we're preaching the true gospel, the gospel of peace, that it's a free gift from God. You just have to trust on the free gift God gave you, the Son dying on the cross for you and raising again for our justification unto eternal life. So, you know, I think once people start hearing our message, they're like, whoa, you know, sometimes they've already got you judged before they hear what's coming out of your mouth. And, you know, it's not your creeds, beads, or good deeds, or your water baptism, or none of those things. None of our works mean anything in front of a holy and righteous God. So we preach the gospel of peace, 1 Corinthians 15, 1-4, that Christ died for our sins, was buried, and rose again for our justification and eternal life according to the scriptures. So I'm thankful you brought that up just so I could share the gospel. But I know so many people know it. I just wish more people would trust in it.
No
Amen.
problem. No problem at all. Like I told you, I was raised by Baptists, and my grandfather was a pastor, preacher, whatever you want to call it, for 30 plus years. So he met his wife, my grandmother, at Bible college. So yeah, I mean, I went to church four days a week as a kid. Trust me, I know plenty of our coaches in general, I think have faith and are involved in faith, or like I said, I have a coaching buddy that I've talked to who, I mean, that's a big part of his program in general. So I mean, like I said, if you want to learn more, check out the bio. It'll have a link, so you can go check Coach's stuff out, and kind of where he's at. He'll probably be a lot farther along by then. But by the time this comes out and I get all this edited and all that jazz. So otherwise, coaches, that's another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Check out our sponsors, all that, and there's certain parts you want to go back to. What's it called? Video tags are in there. So if you want to go back and listen to a specific part, you can find all that jazz. I think that's about it. Again, obviously, if you truly want to learn the offense, you can reach out to the guys at Liberty Hill. But I mean, don't try to do gimmicky and other weird stuff, because again, that stuff bothers me. I know it bothers coaches, and we kind of talked about that. Like, just if you want to learn it, talk to them. That's just,
yeah. We'll help them just the same. We just kind of shake our head. We know down deep if they want just a part of it, it's probably not going to work out real well. You got to be all in, and those guys are more fun to work with who are all in. But we will, contrary to the whole SWAT team mafia mystique, we will help we love the offense so much. We'll help anyone, and try to learn from them as well when they come in. You know, but we'll help anybody that shows a genuine interest and wants to come and visit with us.
Okay, perfect, coaches. Again, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and that's another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.